So the Democrats are engaged in something called lawfare. What's that? It's basically using the law to conduct warfare against your political opponents. So they call it lawfare. And it's not normal legal interpretation using precedents or whatever. It's basically coming up with totally novel interpretations, or in this case, something that hasn't been used in over 100 years, to disable your opponent. And I don't need to go through all what they've done to Trump, but, starting with the Russia hoax, which was a hoax. It's not an opinion. It's like you have the Mueller report, the Inspector General, it said numerous investigations. They all said, no, there was no collusion, never happened. But that disabled Trump for the first 2 years of his presidency. Then along comes impeachment, the first impeachment. What was that? A phone call to Zelensky. Biden's like shuttling to Kiev. But Trump does one phone call, and all he says is, we're hearing, by the way, the World Bank ranks Ukraine as the most corrupt country in Europe and one of the 4 or 5 most corrupt countries in the world. And I've been to Nigeria and Congo and some of these other places, believe me. It's pretty hairy, but that's how bad Ukraine is. They were taking all the state from the United States and recycling it back to the Democratic Party in the form of payoffs and illegal campaign contributions, et cetera. So, and that's all been borne out, from Burisma on down. So all Trump did was he called Zelensky and said, could you look into this? We're hearing all this. We got a lot of evidence. Could you look into it? He gets impeached for that. It was a 20-minute phone call, but he got stabbed in the back by Vindman and Chiarella and a couple others. And there was no vote to have the impeachment. But as he gets impeached again after he's out of office. He's not even the president. He's out of office. He's an ex-president civilian, and he gets impeached the second time. And then all these cases, we don't have to go through them all, but he's been indicted on almost 100 felony counts in 4 different cases. I think the exact number is like 95 or give or take, but, close to 100 felony counts. From the ridiculous, the Stormy Daniels hush money case in New York, calling the governor of Georgia saying, hey, could you count the votes again? That turned into a RICO conspiracy. The classified documents case in Palm Beach, even though Biden kept his classified documents in a garage in a box, which that Hunter Biden could thumb through at will. And then the January 6th case in Washington, D.C. All Democratic prosecutors, all handpicked jurisdictions. I've done a lot of litigation, Brian. I work with some of the top white-collar criminal defense lawyers in the country. And they all tell me the same thing. They say, look, I'm going to do the best job I can. The prosecutor's going to do the best job they can. The judge is the judge. A lot of the things are actually fixed. They're not really variables. They're baked in the pie. The one variable that determines the outcome of the case is the jury. And in a high-profile case, people spend millions of dollars on jury selection. Just look at OJ. I mean, not my opinion, he was guilty as could be, but he was acquitted because he had a favorable jury. So these jurisdictions, Fulton County, Georgia, Manhattan, were handpicked because they're 90% overwhelmingly Democrat, heavily black, just anti-Trump juries from the beginning. So highly likely Trump will be convicted of something. Now he's got appeals. Some of the charges will be dismissed. It'll play out, but he'll be convicted of something somewhere. So I think we can count on that. But even that's not enough. I just went through the litany of like anti-Trump mania, right? But now we got to bring in the 14th Amendment, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. So what the Colorado court, this is the Colorado Supreme Court. So this will be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court because you don't have to go through the courts of appeals if it's a state Supreme Court decision involving the Constitution. They said Trump engaged in insurrection. They also said Section 3, 14th Amendment is self-executing. Now, what they mean by that is you don't actually have to get due process. Trump has not been convicted of insurrection. He has not been accused of insurrection. There was no hearing. There was no trial. There was no panel of any sort that ever said Trump engaged in an insurrection. For that matter, there's never been a determination under due process of law, other than like talking heads on TV, that it even was an insurrection. Was it a riot? Yeah, I say it's a riot. It was a demonstration, unruly. A riot, yeah. some violence, yes, some broken windows, broken doors, it's not as extensive as you're led to believe, but some, yes. And if you smash down the door and you get arrested, yeah, face the consequences, maybe a misdemeanor charge and 6 months probation or something, some